Neville Goddard, Out of This World, Chapter 3, Power of Imagination. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. Men claim that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates. This means that if I, while imprisoned, suggest to myself that I am free and succeed in believing that I am free, it is true that I believe in my freedom. But it does not follow that I am free, for I may be the victim of illusion. But because of my own experiences, I have come to believe in so many strange things that I see little reason to doubt the truth of things that are beyond my experience. The ancient teachers warned us not to judge from appearances because, said they, the truth need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. They claimed that we bore false witness if we imagined evil against another, that no matter how real our belief appears to be, how truly it conforms to the external reality to which it relates, if it does not make free the one of whom we hold the belief, it is untrue and therefore a false judgment. We are called upon to deny the evidence of our senses and to imagine as true of our neighbor that which makes him free. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. To know the truth of our neighbor, we must assume that he is already that which he desires to be. Any concept we hold of another that is short of his fulfilled desire will not make him free and therefore cannot be the truth. Instead of learning my craft in schools where attending courses and seminars is considered a substitute for self-acquired knowledge, my schooling was devoted almost exclusively to the power of imagination. I sat for hours imagining myself to be other than that which my reason and my senses dictated until the imagined states were vivid as reality, so vivid that passers-by became but a part of my imagination and acted as I would have them. By the power of imagination, my fantasy led theirs and dictated to them their behavior and the discourse they held together while I was identified with my imagined state. Man's imagination is the man himself, and the world as imagination sees it is the real world, but it is our duty to imagine all that is lovely and of good rapport. The Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh upon the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh upon the heart. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. In meditation, when the brain grows luminous, I find my imagination endowed with the magnetic power to attract to me whatsoever I desire. Desire is the power of imagination uses to fashion life about me as I fashion it within myself. I first desire to see a certain person or scene, and then I look as though I were seeing that which I want to see, and the imagined state becomes objectively real. You've closed yourself off to the senses. You've gone into your closet. You've shut the door. Now you're now with the Lord. You're in heaven. You're with your Father. You're in an imaginative state. Listen to the sentence. Desire is the power imagination uses to fashion life about me as I fashion it within myself. Desire. I first desire to see a certain person or scene, and then I look as though I were seeing that which I want to see, and the imagined state becomes objectively real. It objectifies. It becomes reality. I desire to hear, and then I listen as though I were hearing. And the imagined voice speaks that which I dictate as though it had initiated the message. That is very fascinating when that happens. The person talking to you on the other end of the phone is like, it sounds so fresh and so new coming out of their mouth. They really think that they initiated all of it. And you're just sitting there laughing. I mean, I've watched my teacher, excuse me, and smile for years. And that fatted cat look, that smiling, just content. And I never knew if she was, treading in the wine press, so to say, because she just had that smile all the time. And it is funny because we never went into the Neville material together. We went into the Seth material very heavily, including meetup groups weekly at my house and different meetup groups on the weekends and teaching Seth material. It was very, very fun time, many, many years of doing that. But we never got into Neville. But this is very, very interesting because when it does happen and you do hear it verbatim, all you can do is smile. Your ego's not, this isn't about your ego and claiming credit here. This is about seeing this work for yourself. I desire to hear, and then I listen as though I were hearing, and the imagined voice speaks that which I dictate as though it had initiated the message. I could give you many examples to prove my arguments, to prove that these imagined states do become physical realities. But I know that my examples will awaken in all who have not met the like or who are not inclined towards my arguments a most natural incredulity. Nevertheless, experience has convinced me of the truth of the statement. He calleth those things which he not as though they were. He calleth those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4:17. For I have in intense meditation called things that were not seen as though they were, and the unseen not only became seen, but eventually became physical realities. Remember, looking for my bookmark, remember, as we have shown many times, all that is, I am God right here. Your self-concept, my self-concept, a future self-concept, a past self-concept, all these self-concepts are all opportunistic. Any of them you can become. Any self-concept. All of them exist in time, in space, and there is no limitation except the one you believe in your own self-concept. And you can change that self-concept into another self-concept by believing, making the subconscious impression, objectifying the new reality. In this statement, nevertheless, experience has convinced me of the truth of the statement. He calleth those things that which be not as though they are. Excuse me. He calleth those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4:17. For I have in intense meditation called things that were not seen as though they were, and the unseen not only became seen, but eventually became physical realities. It's the same thing we're doing. We're taking in our meditation and we're forming the marriage between the masculine and the feminine, the conscious and the subconscious. And in meditation, we are with our Father in his house. So therefore, we give birth to the Son, our reality, the reality of that which we are in meditation of. When in meditation, you convince your consciousness of that reality. You do this in meditation. You do this in sats. You do this in your daydreams. You do this. The only person you're trying to persuade in this world is you. Nobody is concerned or cares if you're married. Nobody is concerned or cares if you are a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. Nobody really cares. Everybody is operating with the three fingers pointing back at themselves. They're so busy pointing at others. I know I'm making a judgment. I can afford one or two, but most people are so busy looking at the outer world, thinking that everything out there is how you do things. When in actuality, it's in here. It's in meditation. It's in your Father's house. It's in the closet with the door closed. When you cut off the senses, in meditation is where the marriage happens. That's where you convince your subconscious of the new impression of what you want to be. You want to be married? You want to have a happy, loving relationship? You impress that into your subconscious. That then becomes the form of the masculine and the feminine, the conscious and the subconscious, which creates an offspring through him. Because you notice it goes back through here and it comes out over here. So you're not going to get away with trying to go out here and make a path to you're not going to go out of your way to use out there. Believe me, everybody's trying. I'm not everybody, excuse me. I withdraw all of my judgmental attitude. See what my lessons can be sometimes. But if you're trying to use out there to convince yourself of this, you've taken the wrong path. You're actually sinning, so to say. When in actuality, all you need to do is go within. I am. You know, I and my Father are one, but my Father is greater than I. What's wrong with using his power for your howness? You don't care about how. Once you know you're happily married and in love, and you know that the birth of that union is going to equal a relationship of love, you don't care how. You don't care about dating apps. There is nothing out here that is going to do it, to give you this. Only you are going to get that by you, by the path within. In the change of your consciousness, it will equal. Now, if you go out here and you push all your dollars and time and you spend, you're not investing. If you go through here, you're investing, because in addition, you're also seeing this work for yourself. You're seeing the conscious. You're seeing you're using your consciousness to create. You're already doing this anyway, but when you become consciously aware of how you do it, that's the path that will equal any self-concept. By this method, first desiring and then imagining that we are experiencing that which we desire to experience, we can mold the future in harmony with our desire. But let us follow the advice of the prophet and think only the lovely and the good. For the imagination waits on us as indifferently, as swiftly when our nature is evil as when it is good. From us spring forth good and evil. I have set before thee this day life and good and death and evil. Deuteronomy 30:15. This previous sentence you must pay attention to. But let us follow the advice of the prophet and think only the lovely and the good. Golden rule. For the imagination waits on us as indifferently and as swiftly when our nature is evil as when it is good. From us spring forth good and evil. Which one do you want to be involved with? You have your choice. You really do have your choice, and you're the only one who makes it. Desire and imagination are the enchanter's wand of fable, and they draw to themselves their own affinities. They break forth best when the mind is in a state akin to sleep. I have written with some care and detail the method I use to enter the dimensionally larger world, but I shall give one more formula for opening the door of the larger world. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instructions. Job 33:15-16. In dream, we are usually the servant of our vision rather than its master. But in the internal fantasy of dream can be turned into an external reality. In dream, we are usually the servant of our vision rather than its master, but the internal fantasy of dream can be turned into an external reality. In dream, as in meditation, we slip from this world into a dimensionally larger world, and I know that the forms in a dream or in dream are not flat two-dimensional images, but which modern psychologists believe them to be. They are substantial realities of the dimensionally larger world, and I can lay hold of them. I have discovered that if I surprise myself dreaming, I can lay hold of any inanimate or stationary form of the dream, a chair, a table, a stairway, a tree, and command myself to awake. At the command to awake, while firmly holding on to the object of the dream, I am pulled through myself with the distinct feeling of awakening from dream. I awaken in another sphere, holding the object of my dream, to find that I am no longer the servant of my vision, but its master. For I am fully conscious and in control of the movements of my attention. It is in this fully conscious state, when we are in control of the direction of thought, that we call things that are not seen as though they were. In this state, we call things by wishing and assuming the feeling of our wish fulfilled. Unlike the world of three dimensions, where there is an interval between our assumption and its fulfillment, In the dimensionally larger world, there is an immediate realization of our assumption. The external reality instantly mirrors our assumption. Here, there is no need to wait for 4 months till harvest. We look again as though we saw, and lo and behold, the fields are already white to harvest. That is a very fascinating use of creating your reality in the dream state. The dream state definitely has a lot of flexibility, but I have not tried that yet. In dream, we usually are the servant. In dream, we are usually the servant of our vision rather than its master, but the internal fantasy of dream can be turned into an external reality. The method of asking yourself, am I dreaming? Of maybe even scratching your arm in a dream. I've seen different color arms of myself before. I've seen I was a very, very dark-skinned person. I've scratched myself. But one of the techniques in learning about dreams from the Seth material I used was asking myself, am I dreaming right now? Because a dream is so real and so vivid, and when you wake up in a dream, when you're lucid, you realize you're in a dream, but at the same time you're like, okay, this feels too real to be not real, of course, and it's so lucid. You can simply ask yourself, am I dreaming right now? And I love that he's diving into dreams, because dreams are where it's all at. You notice that we all coincidentally have to sleep every night, approximately 8 hours, approximately whatever. But everybody has to sleep. Animals sleep. We sleep. Sharks sleep. Seals sleep. Everything sleeps. Everything is consciousness, don't get me wrong, but everything that we consider conscious, alive, that has instinct, predator or prey, all has a rest period. That rest period, we can easily say, is involved with dreaming. I don't know if sharks dream. I haven't gotten into the study, but I know we dream. I don't know if ants dream. I don't even know if they stop, ants. But anyway, that's a study and video for another day. Point being, back to the concept here, dreams are the doorway for you to get involved with that larger, other dimensionally amazing self. And I don't know how else to describe it. There's so many ways to describe it. He just described it multiple ways, and I'm trying to repeat him, but I'm not doing it too successfully. Your larger dimensional self, your four-dimensional self, is the leader, is the one leading the way. And that four-dimensional self is aware and alive in your dream state. When you're doing your meditation, you're doing your sats, you're just coming back to the four-dimensional self to lead your three-dimensional self. Remember, the three-dimensional self is a shadow of the four-dimensional self. Your dreams and your imagination and your meditation and your imagination, that's where you're in contact with your fourth-dimensional self. Three-dimensional is a shadow of the fourth-dimensional self. Shadow on the wall is the two-dimensional shadow of the three-dimensional self. Dreams is where the fourth dimension is in existence. It's where it exists. Fourth dimension is, and dreams is the same place. That's why you can change so drastically in a dream. You can go from doing this to doing that in completely different things. And people that are passed out of your life, you'll meet them. I've met my parents many, many times. There's just so much to behold when you get involved with dreams. It's wonderful. But remember, that's like an infinite door you open, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, look at all this. Remembering, by the way we're studying this, that's fourth dimensional reality right there. Anything's possible instantly. I had a student one time in one of my classes, and she was in a very lucid dream, fully awake in the dream, and there was a big field of dirt, and she says, well, Gilbert says we were studying this in class, and she says, in the dream state, she says, well, Gilbert says, if I'm creating all this, then why isn't it all just grass? And boom, immediately grass just grew, like very thick, heavy, tall grass. And then she goes, well, if I'm creating all this, then let me pull some of this grass. And she's sitting there pulling the grass. And the way she described it in class was so vivid, so real. And she had this skill set to fully see it vividly, which she did well. And some of her dreams when she brought back to class were really amazing. But it is something you open up and you get used to. It's a skill set like any other skill set. Learn to play guitar. How do you hold those chords? You got to hold them a certain way and repeat, repeat, repeat. So this is the same thing. Writing down your dreams starts with the notepad and the pen. Suggestion you'll remember them. Wake up, write down anything. That dream will get bigger and bigger. I was looking at a dream log yesterday that from a long time ago where I was killed. My teacher actually killed me in a dream. She harpooned me. I opened up a file folder. I was throwing out some old stuff, some old music notation. But this, I opened it up and there's this dream, and I go, oh, I remember this one. There's a 2-page, writing it down, 2 pages. And she harpooned me in the dream state. This harpoon went through me, and I believe my students at the time and a bunch of people were right in front of us, and I was on this dock, and I got this harpoon in me. And then at the moment, I definitely felt myself transitioning, passing away, dying, whatever you want to call it. So I definitely transformed, died, and I'm like, wow, she got me good. Boom, right through me, a big harpoon. And then what immediately happened is there was like 7 people right in front of me. I just reread this dream yesterday, so it's very vivid too when I think back. But I immediately had 7 simultaneous conversations with these people. I was having a complete communication with all 7 in the same instant, in the dream, in this very, very lucid dream, where I've just died, which obviously proves there is no death. Obviously, number 1, but number 2 is that your creativity just keeps rolling. Because what plane or what place did I go to have 7 simultaneous conversations in one instant? There were some other old classmates, old people I was on a baseball team with in there, and just some different choppy, weird things that you just got to write this stuff down. And as I was rereading this yesterday, it was like jumping into such different fragments that I was like, wow, how does that fit that and that fit that? The time and space is completely brought into a one place when you're in the dream state. The opportunity for anything, in my Father's house are many mansions, and the opportunity for anything inside of a dream is infinitely available. So what you desire and you impress upon your subconscious, you're impressing upon your dreaming self. In that reality, the dreaming fourth dimensional reality, it becomes a fact. And since we're only a shadow here, it can't but objectify. It's going to become. When you make that impression here, and in your dream state, boom, 3 dimensions is a shadow of it. I really believe that Neville adds quite a bit of dimension to the Seth material. Again, I've come from that body of work, I don't know, at least 25 years with my teacher. We were doing fairs and doing all kinds of things with the Seth material and classes and meetups and teaching it and all this other stuff. And then also for me, 3 years after she left the party, I got into Ho'oponopono, as I mentioned, kind of clearing this up a little bit. That'd be 28 years of Seth focused, and then 2 years of just Ho'oponopono. And if you haven't looked that up, wow, that is really I thought that was the cherry until I met the Neville material at the 30-year mark. Now, 3 years later, I think the Neville material, as I'm trying to get to here, is the perfect. When you go from the Seth material, then you get in your Ho'oponopono. And there's a lot of other studies, don't get me wrong, but these were main bodies of work that I would deeply, deeply dive into. The Neville material allows the maturity of the Seth material, in my opinion, because especially what he's talking about here with dreams and all the deep work I did with dreams in the Seth material, now I can take Neville's visions and transformations and understandings and really kind of flesh them out because of the experiences I've had over 33 years. It is very, very good melding. These 2 bodies of work really well together, I have to say. Okay, back to the dreaming world. In this dimensionally larger world, ye shall not need to fight. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of the Lord with you. True Chronicles 20:17. And because that greater world is slowly passing through our 3-dimensional world, remember, the greater world, the dream world, the 4th dimensional world is passing through here. Because that greater world is slowly passing through our 3-dimensional world, we can, by the power of imagination, mold our world in harmony with our desire. Look as though you saw, listen as though you heard, stretch forth your imaginary hand as though you touched, and your assumptions will harden into facts. I don't know if you need more than that. Repeating. And because that greater world is slowly passing through our three-dimensional world, we can, by the power of imagination, mold our world in harmony with our desire. Look as though you saw. Meditation, falling asleep, see it. See yourself first person, by the way. Very important tip. Look as though you saw, listen as though you heard, stretch forth your imaginary hand as though you touched. Always involve touching. Always involve hearing. It's not hard. And your assumptions will harden into facts. What are facts? Official fiction. Facts are nothing more than official fiction. What is a vision? Fiction, because you don't see it. To you it seems, oh, I can't believe that. It's not here. I'm not actually getting married. I haven't met anybody yet. Wait a minute. Facts are only official fiction. Your assumptions, which is your fantasy, hardens into facts, becomes a shadow of the fantasy. The fantasy's first. I don't know about you, but my wife and I both had these remarks on our grade school report cards. Spends too much time in imagination. If you had that problem when you were a kid, then you're on the right track, all right? You want to use that skill. You want to reawaken that skill. To those who believe that a true judgment must conform to the external reality to which it relates, this will be foolishness and a stumbling block. But I preach and practice the fixing in consciousness of that which man desires to realize. I preach and practice the fixing, let me see here, the fixing in consciousness of that which man desires to realize. Experience convinces me that fixed attitudes of mind which do not conform to the external reality to which they relate and are therefore called imaginary, things which are not, will nevertheless bring to naught things that are. Let me repeat that. Okay. But I preach and practice the fixing in consciousness of that which man desires to realize. Preach and practice the fixing in consciousness of that which man desires to realize. Experience convinces me that fixed attitudes of mind which do not conform to the external reality to which they relate and are therefore called imaginary, things which are not, will nevertheless bring to naught things that are. Imagination creates reality. I do not wish to write a book of wonders, but rather to turn man's mind back to the one and only reality that the ancient teachers worshipped as God. All that was said of God was in reality said of man's consciousness, so we may say that according as it is written, he that glorieth, let him glory in his own consciousness. No man needs help to direct him in the application of this law of consciousness. No man needs help to direct him in the application of this law of consciousness. I am is the self-definition of the absolute. The I am is the self-definition of the absolute. Out here, no. In here, yes. I am is the self-definition of the absolute. All your answers are not found outside of you. They're found inside. How else do you tie into a desire and find out what you really like, what you really want to experience? You take that desire, you impress your subconscious, you objectify it into reality. This is living in heaven. Heaven's here. It's not out here. It's not out here. It's in here. The root of which everything grows. I am the vine. Let me repeat this very short paragraph. Now, no man needs help to direct him in the application of this law of consciousness. I am is the self-definition of the absolute, the root out of which everything grows. I am the vine. I am the vine. The root out of which I am, everything grows. What is your answer to the eternal question? Who am I? Your answer determines the part you play in the world's drama. Your answer, that is, your concept of self, need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. Now, we're going to get into revision in a forthcoming book here, but it's so powerful. You can go find Neville's lectures on revision, pruning the vine. The idea here is in my mind flashed while I was reading that one short piece that what if your parents taught you this in third, second grade? The idea is, who am I? You want to answer, who am I? They're looking down at you saying, whatever you're doing, you always want to have on your mind, who am I right now? Who am I being? Now, on the other side of my mind, my reason stepped in while I'm having that flash of brilliance. Wait a minute, I didn't experience that, but then the correction came very fast. Wait a minute, you did experience it because you can revise. You can imagine yourself. It doesn't matter what your experience was. It doesn't matter parents, no parents. It doesn't. Nothing matters except for you applying your imagination. That's it. So in this flash, I had the idea. You can easily revise when you were in second grade, your parents telling you, answer the question while you're playing today, who am I? Who am I being on the playground? Who am I being in the classroom? Now, I had the tendency for clownship. I was consistently clowning around, getting laughs, being full of humor, on full speed all the time. But I can see if I revise that self, in whichever grade, because I was consistently doing that, I can inject with revision that into my past self. What does that do? That creates a different self-concept, because if that second grade experience is here and I revise this second grade experience, I'm jumping ahead here for the fun of it. I can revise this second grade experience. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I being? Who do I want to be? I put that backwards in this supposed concept of time. All time is now. There's now. I put that into my second grade self. What does it do to this self? It completely changes your current reality, because you revised how you remember that second grade self walking around with the question on his mind all day. Who am I? So right now, what comes up within me is the definition which I like, because I answered it so long ago in my revised memory. So in my current reality, I am. I am. You can't block it. So I'm jumping into revision real quick here as a commercial, but it is very powerful, especially when you weave in everything we've talked about with time. It's all now. What is your answer to the eternal question, who am I? Your answer determines the part you play in the world's drama. Your answer, that is your concept of self, need not conform to the external reality to which it relates. This great truth is revealed in the statement, let the weak say, I am strong. Joel 3:10. Incidentally, I am a teacher. I am a teacher. I am a teacher. I was giving my teachers hell when I grew up. I was giving them a very difficult, challenging time, because I was a loaded pistol going off in every different direction when I was a kid. So when I go back there and I say, who am I have a ninth grade yearbook. And in that class grade, we were asked, what do we want to be when we grow up? And we all filled out a little 3x5 card and we turned it in. I think it was in art class. I don't know why I have the memory in art class. And the yearbook comes out and my name's right there. And I looked, I have it on the shelf, this yearbook still. And it says psychiatrist? It might say psychologist, either one. Looking back at all the experiences, let's say that's second grade and that's ninth grade. How did I know that I wanted to do something in the field which had to do with the mind in the ninth grade when I couldn't know unless all of this is happening in the same moment? So to go to the shelf, or I could bring it, I could scan it, I could add it to the video, whatever. But the point is, it's there. Why is it there when my favorite thing to do is to see how this works, unveil what's going on here, and share that knowledge to make us all powerful? That's really literally the bottom line of what turns me on. That's my go-to situation consistently. Ask anybody who knows me. Yes, that's exactly what I'm about. So how would I know in my current self-concept that in ninth grade I would have that answer, or in my current self-concept that in second grade I would be full of the question and answer, who am I? See, I just sent that there just now. There's plenty of science fiction movies that dabble with this concept, but a lot of them don't really kind of close the door or conclude how this works, but it works that simply. In your present self-concept, you can, and we're going to get into this later, You can revise to the point where all your past selves, you can revise their experiences. So what that does to them is it bolsters all of them in your supposed timeline looking back. Let's say this is now 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. That one revision will bolster and change this existence, and your current one, because they're all now. It's very, very potent stuff. It was also heavily in the Seth material. We're moving on. Look back over the good resolutions with which many past New Years are encumbered. They lived a little while and then they died. Why? Because they were severed, because they were severed from their root. Assume that you are that which you want to be. Experience in imagination what you would experience in the flesh. Were you already that which you want to be? Remain faithful to your assumption, so that you define yourself as that which you have assumed. You define yourself to that which you have assumed. Things have no life if they are severed from their roots. And our consciousness, our I amness, is the root of all that springs in our world. Who am I? I am, fill in your blank. Quiet, go in your closet, shut the door. I am, let it rise to the surface. Ask before you fall asleep, who am I? When I wake up, I will know who I am. The first thing that floats to the top of my mind when I wake up will be the answer I am looking for when I ask myself right now, who am I? Who am I? No, do not put what, how, where. Forget everything. One question. Who am I? Who am I? You're falling asleep. When I wake up, the first thing that forms in my mind will be the answer. And then, who am I? Who am I? Fall asleep. When you wake up, don't be surprised. Right after your awareness of being, it already is, you load in your self-concept right here. Instantly, the first thoughts that come to mind, right away, don't judge, just be willing to hear. Be ears that hear. All of a sudden, that answer rises right to the top, like cream. Like cream to the top of milk. It just comes right up, naturally. You get the answer you were seeking. There is you defining who am I. Now then, you make assumptions about who you are. If you're not having that reality in your self-concept, and that who am I answer is something completely different, let's say it's here, but you know what it looks like, you now have the opportunity to have a focus and start making the impression onto your subconscious of that definition. Who am I? I am. Now you can make these impressions. Now you can stay focused. Now you have a target. Now you have the word goal. Now you can make a vision board. Now you have self-definition, which is very, very, very valuable. Know thyself. If ye believe not that I am he, ye shall die in your sins. John 8:24. That is, if I do not believe that I am already that which I desire to be, then I remain as I am and die in my present concept of self. That means dying in your sins. There is no power outside of the consciousness of man to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. What a sentence. There is no power outside of the consciousness of man to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. No power outside the consciousness of man. Here's outside the consciousness of man. Here's the consciousness of man. There's no power outside the consciousness of man to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. All the desire in the world, without going through your consciousness, to try and get to your creation of your new self-concept, all the power out here is none of it is going to resurrect what it is you desire to be. We've already said this, except for through here. Again, there's no power outside of the consciousness of man to resurrect and make alive that which man desires to experience. That man who is accustomed to call up at will whatever images he pleases will be, by virtue of the power of his imagination, master of his fate. I am the resurrection, and I am the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. John 11:25. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Wow. Out of This World, Chapter 3, Power of Imagination. Is that a doozy or what? That is a great one. There are so many favorite pieces in this one chapter. I mean, you could reread that all day. That is a great chapter. Watch this again if you got something out of it. Leave a comment if you got something out of it. Are you applying this? Are you figuring out your I amness? All right, we'll see you in the next chapter.